Hi, I'm Dr. Shumik Kotecha from the Kotecha GPS Study Club. I'm here again with part 3 of our marketing shorts with Natalia Decius from Vitamin D Marketing. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank you.
Last 2 times we talked about SEO marketing and websites. Today we're going to talk about Google reviews and Google My Business. So let's talk about, and with Google reviews, I'm not just going to talk about Google reviews, I'm talking about reviews in general, but we're going to specifically talk about Google themselves. I may have some questions with some of the other platforms, as dentists are being rated just like other businesses. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's great, but how do you deal with some other things that come along with it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about reviews, and we can talk specifically about Google reviews. Why are these so important to get for your practice from your patients? And I'm going to specify this. Where do you think, what type of practices do you think is more important in? A new practice, an existing practice, an older practice? I mean, there's lots we can go with this. Well, let's start with why they're important.
Well, they're important for a variety of reasons. The first reason, and I think it's the most important one, it's just part of your online reputation.
Mm-hmm.
People will read your reviews. So the most common review platform is obviously Google reviews, and people will read them and see what others are saying about you. I don't think people are expecting, 5-star review overall ranking, because that's kind of hard to, it almost doesn't come off authentic.
Can't make everyone happy.
Yeah, you can't make everyone happy, but it is part of your online reputation. So whether you have Google reviews, Facebook reviews, RateMD is another quite known platform. If you have any other platforms such as Yelp or whatever that is, it's part of your online reputation, and people really want to see what others have to say about the experience they've had with you. Mm-hmm. The other reason as to why you want to nourish those reviews and kind of continue to work on them constantly to get more reviews is because it improves your organic reach on search engines. So the more reviews you have, the better your ranking will become. And they're relevant for any business, whether you're a startup, you're quite established, or even getting ready to sell. It does matter what people, your patients and your community thinks of you. I think when you are a younger practice, they're a lot easier to implement because you're almost kind of instilling some of these systems from the get-go. Like if you are established practice and you never really paid attention to Google reviews, all of a sudden you have to.
That's me.
Okay.
That would be me.
All of a sudden it's kind of hard to implement now, getting your team on board to say like, guys, we need to be actively asking happy patients for reviews, because they haven't had to do that for 10, 15 years. And now all of a sudden we're doing something new. So part of it is just shifting your mind and actually getting into the groove of doing this on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's my practice in a nutshell. 15 years of me being there, and we didn't really ask for any Google reviews in the first 12 or 13. And now all of a sudden my team are like, well, they ask people, and your patients are also trained not to give them if you never ask for them.
Yeah.
And, it's the age-old saying, right? If you're upset, you tell 10. If you're happy, you maybe tell 1. Yeah. So, if you never ask for good reviews, all you're ever going to ever have is somebody who's unhappy.
Correct.
And it's where I think we're going to go next is the dreaded negative review. Mm-hmm. It's a fact of life. You can't make everybody happy. Sometimes you don't know why. I think the biggest thing is you don't know why someone's unhappy. You don't know that what you said, that person took in a different way, or
correct.
You didn't realize that what was discussed to them, even not by you, it could have been another member of your team, and was something construed differently than its intent, or even if it was intended how it was intended, that may have been something that that person found uncomfortable. So let's talk about these negative reviews, because we're all going to have them at some point. If I go to a website and there's 0 negative review, like 0, they're all perfect scores, I think they're fake. That's just me. I'm not saying they are, but that's my first thought. So it's not. So let's just say, what happens if you get one? Do you? I'm going to ask you what your opinion is. There are more than one type of opinion on people. People say what you should do. So, in your opinion, what would you do if you got a negative review of you or your practice?
Okay, so the first thing that you should do is read the review, kind of understand what happened, and then kind of go back to your team to try to figure out internally, was there something that was done internally that maybe could have been done differently? Was there something that could have made the experience better? Or just try to understand both sides of the story, because a lot of the times, you as the dentist, maybe you weren't even involved in the patient. Maybe it was something with the front desk staff or something with the hygiene or something completely stupid or irrelevant. But whatever that is, you want to have an understanding of what the situation was. Once you have a better understanding of what happened, then you absolutely have to respond to the negative review and respond on Google. Because the way you respond to that situation is also what people are reading as well too. So people understand that you're not going to have a perfect ranking on everything, because anyone that makes buying decisions or looks online to buy something or to go somewhere for a service, you never see like a complete 100% 5-star ranking. You'll always have some negative feedback there.
Unless they only have one.
Exactly. So that's just part of business. It's part of how people are. So, but how you handle the negative experience is really what matters. And I think how you respond to them matters, because it just shows people that you just didn't ignore it. You actually responded to it. It's actually more important to respond to a negative review than it is to respond to a positive review. Like, you should respond to them, to all of them, but it's extremely important that you respond to the negative one. And if it is a legitimate, concern, whether or not there's always two sides of the story, beyond responding to that Google review, I would also encourage that, somebody from your office calls that patient, somebody like your practice manager or somebody you have a very strong front desk person that calls them to basically just acknowledge the fact that you have read their review and you're sorry that they've had a bad experience, and was there anything that you guys could have done to make it better? And because even if it doesn't go anywhere, even if they no longer are your patient, whatever that is, at least you feel good about the fact that you did everything you could to manage the situation, and you're leaving that situation bigger person than them.
I would just add that if you're going to respond, make sure you know privacy laws. Don't violate any HIPAA laws. Don't talk about treatments. I mean, sometimes it's hard because sometimes there's things that you want to say, but you just can't.
Yes.
You're better off, this is my own opinion, is you should acknowledge it. And I think a lot of times people just want acknowledgement of
the situation.
Yeah,
and you keep the response should always be very general. Just the fact that you're taking their feedback seriously and that you'll review them with your team. And even you can even say in the review, I will have our office manager call you to see how we can improve, or something along those lines. So they basically know that you're just handling the situation, but you shouldn't get into blurry details of what happened, because there's some privacy issues that could come out of that.
I also think this actually even emphasizes more on getting positive reviews from people who are happy, because back to that same saying that I said earlier, if you're unhappy, you tell 10. If you're happy, you tell 1.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you don't have all the only reviews you ever get are negative because no one ever says anything because they're never asked to, or, certain places in the country don't care about reviews where, I will tell you, if I asked my mom to review something, she'd look at me and go, no, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
She's just no interest in that. So but if I asked her to do it, she probably would go consider doing it. But on her own, she'd probably never even think about it. She's like, I don't review businesses. I just don't go back if I'm not happy.
Yeah.
but that has changed. People want
Correct.
other people to know their opinion.
Yes. Yep.
All of social media. Let's talk about, what happens if you get a review from someone who's not a patient? I mean, we've seen that. I mean, I hear about it all the time. There are talks between dentists or not, even other businesses, where somebody reviews you and you're like, that person's not a patient of mine. Now, sometimes it's purely by accident if your practice name is very similar to another one.
Mhm.
Other times it's malicious, or it's just you don't even know. They may have called your office and had a conversation with someone. They didn't get what they wanted to, and they decided to leave some information on what happened. What do you do for that? Like, if that person is not actually a patient of yours, how do you handle that?
Okay, so first and foremost, in order to respond to a Google review and in order to be able to do anything with it in terms of flagging it or marking it as inappropriate or whatever that is, you need to make sure that you have access to your Google My Business listing, because that's how you're able to manage your Google reviews. Because you want to manage your Google reviews as a practice owner, not as an independent person where you're responding to these reviews. Once you have access to your Google My Business, you're also going to have access to manage your Google reviews. If in fact this person wasn't a patient of yours and you're quite sure of that, then you should respond to this person to say, hello, so-and-so, we believe you've got the wrong practice. We have no records of you being our patient, and leave it at that. And then there's an option when you're managing Google reviews where you can actually flag the review as there's a variety of options that it's untrue or it's malicious, whatever the category it falls under. So, and typically what will happen if, for instance, this was just a mistake, this person will get a notification of your reply and they will likely just remove it if they actually made a genuine mistake. If it was somebody that was just being malicious for no reason, there is a way of how you can notify Google that it's it's malicious, or it's that they're not a patient of yours. It's a little bit hard to take off, but there's steps that you can take by flagging it and then following up, and eventually they might take it down for you as long as you have a strong case.
Yeah, we've had talks about this, and it's not just Google. I'm not gonna talk about Google specifically. I've had friends talk about reviews and how some of them are not malicious, but they have no way to defend themselves because we can't violate privacy. And some have escalated to legal. They've actually hired lawyers to try to remove it. It's been hit and miss. Some have had them removed, some have not. My own personal philosophy is try to increase the positive ones.
Yeah.
And
I personally would not, and then if somebody's getting malicious, there's a way to block them and there's a way to flag them so they don't continue doing it. But I probably would not be spending, on legal costs to fight a negative review. It's just part of business. It's a public forum. Anyone can share their feedback. But again, the best way to combat that is if you're working actively on asking patients for reviews, for every 100 good reviews that you have, if you have one or two that are not as positive, you're still in golden place. So
it is what it is. You mentioned something there, Google My Business. And what is it? Firstly, let's talk about that. I think everyone who's starting a practice should know that. Do you have to register something? How do you do that? Do you have to claim it? Like, go ahead and explain that.
Yeah. So if you're practice startup or a new business startup, whatever, there's a way how you can register your business for Google My Business. So you basically go to Google My Business and you start an account, you fill out all your business information, and as a new account, within 14 business days or 10 or 14 business days, you're going to get a verification from Google by a postcard mailed to your address, basically validating your address, validating your new business. You completed the registration, and that's how you start becoming visible on it pins your business on a Google map and it has all your business
They
information.
mail that to you? Like
They mail it to
you
you.
mail it?
Yes.
Interesting that people would mail it.
Yeah, it's a simple postcard that has just verification code that you need to enter in order to validate your address, validate your business. If you don't do it, if you don't validate it, then it shows us like it's not going to be visible on Google My Business, or it's not going to be claimed.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that it's validated.
Now, if you have somebody who does, somebody who does your marketing or your website or whatever, all that stuff, can they claim it for you?
Yeah. So I, generally speaking, for any clients that are startups, I set Google My Business listings as part of the website. The client has full ownership rights to it, and they're listed as the owner to the business listing, and vice versa. If if you're an existing practice, but maybe you haven't claimed your listing, or you see something floating around. Sorry, my dog is barking.
That's great.
If you see something floating around but it hasn't been claimed, there's a way to claim it to make sure that you have full rights to it. You don't want somebody else managing it, or just be like have a listing that's you're not able to manage.
No. So then one last question on that, and this has happened to me, and I don't know if it's Google My Business, but I've had people tell me they've Googled my office, and up has come an office in New Jersey, and I practice in Ontario, very far apart. And then I went and I had my people change it, and then it changed back, and it's been like a tug of war. I guess we're both claiming the same business, which makes no sense. What do you think's happening there? Is that something you've seen happen occasionally?
So it's either somebody somehow hacked into your account. I don't know how that happened, but the best way to do it is just to make sure that you actually have full access to your account and you're listed as an owner. And that should be linked to your personal Gmail account. So meaning that nobody can just take over an account. Because generally speaking, if somebody even else applies and says, oh, I want to claim this business listing, Google will send you notification to say, is this legitimate? And you respond to it if it's, whether it's